Welcome back to What's Arty Noobs for General Disturbance. This is a StuG III Ausf G. Yes, it's the StuG III G, the Tier 5 German tank destroyer. It's located on the southwest spawn of Arctic region, otherwise known as Mannerheim Line, and it's under the command of Gary Halliwell. Game started. Well, Gary's armed with a 75mm gun, and I can tell that from the length of the barrel. It's capable of doing 135 alpha, penetrating 150mm of armour, and with the premium rounds, it'll go through 194mm. Now, the StuG. Originally, it was just known as the Sturmgeschütz because it wasn't identified as a dry or a 3, simply because there was no Panzer IV variants. It was made from the Panzer III, and the specifications said it had to be no higher than an infantry soldier, so 6 feet in maximum, or 2 meters. Now, the father of the StuG could be generally regarded as General Erich von Manstein. He was the guy who actually came up with the original idea, and he put it forward in 1935 with good reason. The troops needed a vehicle that could actually support them against bunkers, and he felt the StuG fit the basket. In fact, he actually put a requirement out for a vehicle, and that StuG is finally being torn to shreds. He put out a requirement for a vehicle to carry a 75mm infantry support weapon that would be capable of taking out a bunker, and he's just spotted an AMX-40 over there. Can't get a shot at it at the moment, and he doesn't want to go too far out, because if he does, he might draw the attention of some of the enemy. Okay, he's got a Selbstfahrerfährte 1C, and he's just tearing that guy to shreds. That one hit as well. Oh, looks like an Arty round went in. He might get a kill shot. Here we go. Yep, he's got his first kill. Now, it used to be said that you could identify a StuG from which vehicle it actually came by how many road wheels it actually had. If it had 6 road wheels, you divide that by 2, and it came from a Panzer III. But apparently that's not the case, and it was the chieftain who found that out very, very much later. Of course, the Panzer IV StuGs, or StuG IV, did have 8 road wheels, which of course identified them as the Panzer IV being the donating vehicle. Well, that's Stuart's about to get a nasty surprise. Yeah, the SU-85 is going to have him. Can Gary get a shot? Yes, he does, but it only critical hits. Can he get a kill shot? Well, the SU-85 did. He's decided to put a round into the Cavalier, and he gets the engine bay for 145, which is a high roll. But the SU-85 is turning around. Oh, that one hit the cliff. Can he get another shot in? Not at the moment. Might be able to get around into the Cavalier later. So originally the idea was put forward in 1935. Alket's got the contract to actually build some sample vehicles. Came up with 6 of them in the end. And a variety of... Oh, brilliant shot on the Cavalier. A variety of different Aslains who actually came up with the A, B and so on, and eventually the Sturmgeschütz Ausf B was the one that was finally accepted, and they started producing them, and they did see service in France in 1940. Now originally they were offered to the Panzer Corps, but the Panzer Corps didn't want them because they saw, oh no, this is infantry support and it's artillery. And so we don't want it, and then they offered it to the infantry. And the infantry said, well, no, this is mechanised. We don't do mechanised, we're troops. And so they rejected it. So eventually they offered it to the artillery, and the artillery said, fine, yeah, we'll take it. And so every StuG actually was manned by artillerymen until later on during the war, when finally the Panzer Corps finally worked out how good it was. When he got one shot into the T6 medium. They manufactured 9,346 StuG III Gs, and they were responsible for destroying 20,000 enemy vehicles. 20,000 allied vehicles were destroyed by them. Okay, he's now receiving fire, so he needs to pull back. In fact, that's one of the bad things about the StuG, is it's got a very poor reverse speed. And he did take some damage there. He's fixed that. So if you want to if you're going to get hit with if you're going to get hit as a StuG, you want to be hit in the front, not the sides and the rear, because the front has got 80mm. The sides have only got 30 and 50. Oh, nice shot on the Matilda. Actually hit the roof of the vehicle. And he got a high roll as well. So it's got very poor armour on the sides, but on the front it's very good indeed. And it's also got a fairly fast reload as well. It's 4.31 seconds, but Gary's got it down to 4.04. So the StuG was probably one of the cheapest and most effective of all the German armoured vehicles during the war. And in fact, actually, the amazing thing is, it's basically just the Panzer III with no turret, which actually makes it fairly cheap to produce. We did take a return fire round from that Matilda. He's going to try and get another round in. Yes, he can. Good kill. That's his fourth. He's really being a pest to these enemy tanks. They just can't make any way forward without taking sufficient damage. And for the KV-1, yeah, unfortunately the enemy guerrillas now worked this out. And he's now firing in, and we've got the Churchill 1. He's got lots of lovely targets to aim at. He's having a good time here. This is really good, although he did take a round there from a Churchill, which makes him now one shot, so he needs to be careful. Okay, can he get a shot at KV-1? No, he can't. We've almost capped out at the other end. I think the enemy is going to lose this game, and it's going to be over momentarily. And that's it. We've capped out and won. Even though the enemy was still carrying on their assault, they forgot about their cap and they've lost the game. There was only 2 enemy vehicles left at the end, the KV-1 and the Guerrilla. So let's have a look at the end of battle stats. And here's the end of battle results, and it was an ace tanker for Gary Halliwell in the StuG III, or Dry I should say, Ausf G. He managed to get a fighter badge for getting at least 4 kills. He did get 4 exactly, a fire for effect for doing more damage than the hit points of his own vehicle, a bruiser medal for getting at least 5 critical hits. He managed to get 9, and he got a high caliber as well for dealing the most damage in the game. And look at that win rate, very, very good indeed, 9,338. He really knows how to use the StuG III G to its most effectiveness. It is basically one of those tank destroyers that stands off at a distance with his front facing the enemy and just keeps blasting away until eventually the enemy gives up. Well, let's have a look at the team score and see exactly how well he did. 2,139 hit points of damage. Let's get that right. He was the only one over 2,000. The next high scorer being that SU-85 on the enemy team with 1,399 to him. He managed to get a cool-headed. And the next one after that was the Fifi on his own team with 1,390. When it came to kills, again, he's got the highest number with 4. 3 kills went to the Churchill 1 and also that SU-85. Yet that was quite a dangerous opponent. And it's a pity he didn't get the kill on him. But yes, he was also very sneaky and knew when he'd actually been targeted. So I think he realised, I need to pull back. In fact, he took note of that shot that actually hit him from Gary, which didn't actually do any damage apart from a critical hit. So he was wise enough to pull back. And when it came to base XP, yes, he's got the top again. So he's got the top in all 3 columns. 919 base experience points. The next high scorer being the M10 RBFM on his own team with 721. And after that, it was the Fifi with 687. He fired 24 rounds in that game. 20 direct hits and 18 penetrations. 2,139 hit points, of which 913 were at more than 300 meters. He received 9 hits from the enemy. 5 of those were penetrations, 4 non-penetrations, and 2 hits by way of splash damage. Yes, the armor on the StuG is okay, but it's not perfect. The thing is, it can be penetrated. 30mm of armour on the sides, 50 on the rear. If you can get a shot into the side of a StuG, you can take it down. And you saw that right at the start of the battle when the enemy StuG really got outclassed by a Stuart who was just pumping rounds into his side. He blocked damage of 280 hit points. He spotted 1 enemy vehicle, that was the AMX. 9 enemy vehicles were damaged, 4 were killed, and 662 hit points of damage assistance. On a premium count, he earned 40,530 credits, got 20,265 from personal reserve, so a total of 60,795 credits altogether. And after repair, ammunition, resupply and consumables, took away 35,942 credits altogether. A good game. 1,378 XP, 6,895 experience points from completing a mission, and 1,378 from personal reserves. It took away 9,652 experience points altogether. So the StuG III G, well, I think actually this was Hitler's biggest mistake, I think, in the end. You see, he was so insistent on building vehicles that could actually outclass the enemy in every way in terms of heavy tank lines. He, after seeing the KV-1 and seeing how the KV-1 took on German tanks and bested them when he, in Operation Barbarossa, he wanted bigger and better heavy tanks, and of course that's where he came up with the Tiger 1. In fact, they were already working on the Tiger 1 at the time when it came out, the Panzerkampfwagen 6. But the thing is that what he should have done instead is put all the money into making StuGs, because for every Tiger tank you build, you could actually have near enough 5 StuGs. And that's 5 vehicles as opposed to one big heavy duty heavy tank. And the thing is that considering the StuGs actually killed 2 vehicles for every 1 StuG that was made, effectively they were taking the enemy down on a massive basis. So even though that wasn't all armoured vehicles, the fact of the matter is that the StuG was capable of taking down enemy tanks because it's an ambush vehicle. It could sit in a bush. It's so low, and so height-wise it's so small that it was actually below the bush line or the cover line, and the enemy wouldn't spot it until it was too late. And the 75mm gun was so powerful it would just slice straight through the enemy armour, and a shell velocity of 925 meters per second, which meant that as soon as they spotted the enemy at distance, they could start taking them out there. But it'd be very difficult for the enemy to work out where the StuG was. They'd have to look for the smoke to see or get a clue as to where the StuG was, because there's no sight of it because it's hiding in the bushes. But yes, if Hitler had actually built StuGs and Hetzers instead of Tiger tanks and Tiger IIs, he might have had enough armour to repel the Allied forces, and that might have helped him to force a stalemate. But instead he actually wasted money on heavy tanks, even though they were OP heavy tanks. I must say, in defence, I would say that the Tiger tank did account for 8 enemy vehicles for every Tiger they made. But the problem was they made so few Tigers that the Sturmgeschützes made much more sense, because you'd have more vehicles, more all over the place, and that meant, of course, that more guns available to take down the enemy vehicles as they approached. So really, StuG life is all about devastating the enemy, and it really was the cheap option. It was basically like the German version of the T-34. Except, of course, it was an assault gun, not a tank destroyer, not a tank. But there you go. It was a cheap version of armour which could actually be very effective, like the M4, like the T-34. So I'm very much a fan of the Sturmgeschütz III. I think of all the vehicles, if I was asked to do my top 5 vehicles in the Tank Museum, I know certainly the StuG would be number 1, because it's such a really effective vehicle. Plus, of course, it was manned by artillerymen, and artillerymen knew their job so precisely they would get much more direct hits. And of course, you must know as well, Michael Wittmann was a StuG driver, a StuG commander. At the start of the war, he got promoted to Tiger tanks afterwards, but he was a StuG commander at the start. So it was from the StuGs that he gained his experience. And then, of course, he went in to become the Black Baron. So there you go. Great game by Gary. Very effective. He did his job. He probably was down to his last few hit points at the end there, but I'm pretty sure he could have taken out that KV-1, and then it would have been an easy kill for the gorilla as well, who was actually under assault at the time. But very nicely done, ace tanker and high caliber. If you enjoyed that replay, please give this video a like, do subscribe to our channel, leave a little comment down below because it feeds the algorithm. And thank you for watching.